All it takes is one good one. Ezekiel 22 verse 30. And I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap before me for the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none. So out of sight, out of mind. There's really no other way to describe what was happening here in the land of Israel. The simplicity of what was going on behind the scenes would leave you dumbfounded. At this point in the story, the children of Israel were falling into the hands of the king of Babylon. The land was spiritually polluted on all ends. The priests had profaned the holy things, they took bribes, they perverted judgment, they failed to preserve the knowledge of the true God among the people, and they were just under the influence of ungodliness. The princes were like wolves shedding innocent blood and were obsessed with dishonest gains. The prophets were prophesying after their own hearts. The people vexed the land, used oppression against the poor and needy. They had become worse than the heathen surrounding them, who they were supposed to be an example to. The people had an agenda, and it had nothing to do with God. Sometimes people will claim God while it is convenient, and at the same time pursue every evil desire of the heart. God had often complained that these people do honor him with their lips, but that their heart is far from him. Things had gotten to the breaking point to where now God was getting ready to show them just how fed up he had gotten. And even through all this, we still see the loving and caring nature of God. Here he says, I sought for one to stand in the gap before me for the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none. You see, God didn't want to cast them away. He didn't want to destroy them. The love of God and his patience is often so easily forgotten sometimes. Because the people had rebelled for so strong, for so long, there was hardly a man that was not already out of place in the grand scheme of things. All he wanted was one, a modern day Moses to intercede for his people. But simplicity, when overlooked, can have devastating consequences, as we see here. Just imagine, all it took was one good one, and the captivity could have been avoided. No, that's not to say there wouldn't have been some form of punishment. I mean, things were pretty bad at this point. What does this mean for a modern day society? It means God is still looking for outstanding kingdom citizens to stand in the gap. He is looking for people willing to stand against compromise, people who have a burning desire to see the whole land uphold righteousness, people who hate seeing others done wrong, people who can see the principles behind everything that is done. You see, just like with Gideon, God doesn't need a lot, only a few good men. Sometimes it feels like it doesn't matter. Like if you do good or do evil, there is no difference because you are just one person. But take an example from this story, because all it would have taken was for one good one to stand in the gap, and the entire land of Israel would have been saved. One man, Jesus, stood in the gap and died. Now we can all be saved. Never underestimate the power of one. For we know the Lord's hand is not limited, for it can save by few or by many. This also shows us the benefit of having strong principles and values that you determine, and not to just go along with what everyone else thinks is good or right. Because here you can see that the majority values were about to send the entire nation into captivity.